Hello, everyone. I've got pleasure in opening the council meeting of the 10th of February 2026 at 6 p.m. and welcome all those in attendance. Okay, the City of Vincent would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to elders past and present, acknowledging that the City of Vincent has a role in working towards reconciliation and justice for First Nations people. So I'm just going to wait to deal with the echo that's coming through. Okay, so has that stopped? Yes, it has. Okay, so we have got two apologies for tonight. We've got Councillor Sophie Greer and we've got Councillor Suzanne Warner, who are both a leave of absence, and I note that everyone else is here tonight. So we have members of the public here. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the meeting? Can I get an indication? Just show your hand. Okay, if you haven't been at one of these meetings before, you just need to come forward to the podium. You've got 3 minutes. You say your name and what suburb you reside in. If you're talking about an item that's on the agenda tonight, please say which one it is, because what we will do is we will bring that item forward and we'll deal with that item in the order in which they are presented by members of the public. You've got a timer up there. If you don't wish, this is being live streamed. If you don't want to be on the live stream, just tell us and we can stop the live stream. People can't see you on the live stream, but they'll be able to hear you. And your comments will end up in the minutes, as well as answers to any questions that you wish to ask. So please feel free to come forward. Hello.
My name is Paula Hart. I live in Vine Street, and there's a number of us coming up today to talk about the issues of traffic on Vine, Hamel and Angove Street. Now, we have got Nathan, who will be doing a much more rounded kind of conversation about this. My plan was, I'm just going to kind of go a little bit back a step or two. What I found was I was very aware that one neighbour's writing in, one neighbour's writing in, one neighbour's writing in, one neighbour's writing in. We're all writing in. I said, let's just collate this whole thing. I send it all into your engineering. I say, hey, instead of wasting your time dealing piecemeal, can we deal with this as one? Because there's this little issue, and all these little issues make one big issue. Now, we found that we weren't really getting a lot of traction on this. It was fantastic. Councillor Wolf came out and literally every single thing that we had complained about happened to her while she's trying to have the meeting with me. We're watching the fact that for a 170-metre long road, that the traffic is on the wrong side of the road for 145 metres of those. So that means if it's appropriate to be driving at 40 miles an hour, kilometres an hour, that's all very well and good, but you're on the wrong side of the road. There's a blind thing. Hey, you get two cars coming this way, one coming this way. Oh, how are they all passing each other? It's a bit of a mess. So we're going to talk about that at length, but what I wanted to add to this is maintenance. One of the things which we've really needed are our no stopping, no standing, the yellow lines and whatever all redone. I have got photos here, which I can just kind of fling over this way in a second. What this shows is we have Uber drivers stop on the blind corner. So then we've got cars trying to go around. It's a bit of a pain in the bum. Now, the next thing, which I've also got one photo that's a little better. I know Nathan's got quite a detailed lot of photos up here, but the particular photo is about what actually happens at the top of Vine Street. So we've had engineering saying, oh, it's all appropriate distances. But what my experience is you get a car coming down Angove, you get a car coming up. Oh, they've got to do a little bit of manoeuvring around each other. And as they manoeuvre around each other, usually the car that's turning in actually has to stop, which means their bum is hanging out the back onto Angove Street, which means whoever's driving down Angove Street is going, what the heck's happening? I'm just driving along, this person's turning. I'm expecting them to turn and they don't turn. So next thing is a whole pile of hooting and tooting. So I've got a little photo of that there. And I know that money's tight. I know that, there's works cost a lot of money. What do we want to do? We want a little white line to go, and we want a sign to be picked up and moved 6 metres down the road. It's not a big cost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's your time, and perhaps I'm aware that other people want to address. But yes, any documents you want to have circulated, sure, we can. But this is for other people present as well. We can circulate them, okay, to people, and maybe if anyone else wants to pick up on your points, who would like to address the meeting next, please? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christina Nicholson. That was item 10.2, if you didn't catch that. I'm a ratepayer and a resident at Vine Street, North Perth. I am a landscape architect and I've lived at this address for 11 years with my husband and 2 children. I too am frustrated by the city's response with the data analysis regarding traffic management on our section of Vine Street, around the blind bend and intersection with Hamel Lane. Firstly, as a parent, I want our future planning to be moving towards safe spaces for walking and bike riding across our neighbourhood. I'm acutely aware of the caution needed to get children safely across the street as they walk on Hamel Lane to and from the daycare and North Perth Primary School. Living adjacent to Hamel Lane, I witnessed this firsthand, and it is common discussion for parents to talk about the speed and near misses on this section of road. The data says there are no reported accidents. In the 11 years that I have lived here, my parked car has been sideswiped 3 times. My neighbours on both sides of me have had similar damage to parked cars. The data that is not recorded is every time a car is damaged, every time we witness drivers swerving in near misses, every time we see cars needing to reverse on the street or pull into Hamel Lane to allow cars to pass each other, the near misses with cars pulling out of Hamel Lane onto Vine Street. Do we need to have a fatality to improve your data? In October, a swerving and near miss scenario was actually a reportable incident with multiple police cars and an ambulance in attendance. Police report CAD job 667614 was provided to the city in October. I understand it takes a while to load onto the crash report system, but the city was made aware. It involved 2 moving vehicles swerving at the bend to not hit each other. The southbound driver ended up off the road in the entry to Hamel Laneway. The northbound driver sideswiped 4 parked vehicles. This incident occurred just after 8 a.m. when children are walking to school. Residents heard the first sound of crash, squealing tyres and further bangs. About a dozen residents ran out onto the street expecting to see a child hit. Smoke hung in the air for 10 minutes. Fortunately, no pedestrians were injured. One of the passengers were. The relevant local insight provided by the community needs to hold more influence in the decision-making process. This data analysis seems costly, time-wasting, and misses the point of our lived experience. Thank you.
Who else would like to address? You just need to come forward.
Deputation.
No, that's okay. We've actually got a separate area for your deputation because we've also got your PowerPoint presentation. Would anyone else like to address the meeting?
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. I'd like to speak about item 9.2. My name is Leigh Behan. I'm one of the owners and managing directors at Molly's Irish Pub. We've been in business for 2 years now with great success, and the reason for our planning application is to secure the long-term success of our business. We feel like we have added to the revitalisation of the part of the strip where we operate in, and previous to us it was quite a bit different. Just to address some of the responses, just to respond to some of the queries from last week's briefing, we have updated our venue management plan to incorporate the management of smokers. I think that was one of the issues that was addressed. It's noted in the report that there was 4 complaints that were received since we've opened. We weren't aware of this, so we haven't acted accordingly to update our venue management plan up until now. And we, in relation to changing our operating hours, we want to align with our tavern license. So we want to just match what our tavern license is to what the city has on file. That's everything I'd like to add, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. You just need to come forward. Whoever would like to address the meeting next.
Good evening, Mayor, Councillors. My name is Phil Sarich. I live in North Perth. I've lived in the city of Vincent at 3 or 4 residences in the last 30 odd years. currently live in Far Avenue. I'm speaking to agenda item 5, which is the petition submitted regarding the traffic and parking in Far Avenue in North Perth. The petition, I think, speaks for itself, so I'm not going to reiterate anything there. I just wanted to sort of bear witness to it slightly. I've been riding up and down Far Avenue on a bicycle since about 2012. My child going to North Perth Primary School and me working in West Perth, and moved there 3 years ago. When I used to ride up and down there on a bicycle, it was completely empty, morning, afternoon, anytime. Since we've been there, there's obviously been more traffic in the last 3 years, but the problem seems to be escalating. And so, which is why we've got to the point where we've submitted the petition. And if you could just give it due consideration, we would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Michaela Carr. I'm also from North Perth, just here to support Phil's application. Just letting you know, there are 3 cars in our household. We have 1 driveway, so we have to use the street parking. We get honked at when leaving the street by people who want our parking space. There are also cars parked over our driveway at times. There's even a staff member from Betty Park who uses our street for parking, even though there's actually an allocated staff parking area at Betty Park. Classes as early as 5:15 in the morning mean that we have people coming and going from the centre, having loud conversations at the bottom of our driveway, which means we can hear it as we're in our bedroom. I've nearly been hit by a speeding vehicle, probably a number of times through Far Avenue when one has come through, almost had my car door shorn off by another car. And I've had to recently comfort a worried neighbour about, she's worried that ambulances might not be able to get through to assist her very unwell husband because of the parking issue. This is not just about our peace of living in Vincent, this is also about safety. So we look forward to you looking at our petition and considering it favourably. And if you could consult us if there's some sort of working party to move forward, we'd love to be part of that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gurjant Singh Sangha. I'm from 496 Charles Street, running a car wash business for over 10 years. And just wanted to thank the officers and everyone, the council, and they've been working on this application for more than 3 years. I would like to consider my request and to see the positive results tonight. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor Zaman and councillors. Leslie Flory, 79 Sass Ave, Mount Hawthorn. Firstly, as of the 10th of February 2026, I request the following information. How many vacant residential properties does the City of Vincent own? How many residential lots have been acquired by the City of Vincent for public open space? How many vacant commercial land parcels does the City own? How many commercial properties does the City own? Secondly, according to the City's information, there are approximately 50 properties within the City of Vincent that contain stormwater pipes located on private property. However, the City advises that affected residents will only be notified of the existence of this infrastructure if maintenance occurs or a land transaction takes place. Using an example of a sale of a property where the seller is not aware that a City of Vincent stormwater pipe runs through their property, under the City's current practice of non-disclosure by omission, sellers cannot disclose what they do not know in an offer and acceptance, and buyers are therefore equally unaware. This means a buyer may purchase a home without any knowledge that a major city asset exists on the property. A seller cannot disclose the existence of a stormwater infrastructure at the time of sale because they were never informed. Property rights are affected without the owner's knowledge, contrary to principles set out in the Charter of Property Rights. Furthermore, can I ask the Council to respond to my unresolved question from December 2026 meeting? My general question stated, if a landowner has a City of Vincent stormwater pipe running through their property, the City is aware of its existence and land transaction occurs without any easement being recorded on the title due to a lack of transparency, non-disclosure or omission by the city, will the city accept responsibility and negligence and provide compensation to the affected land owner as provided for under the Local Government Act? The city has advised there are approximately 50 properties where the stormwater pipe runs through their residential properties. How many of the 50 affected residents have been notified? How many of the 50 residents have had easements placed on them? Finally, I request information on the amount of insurance premiums paid to LGIS for the 2024-2025 financial year and what amount was paid back as a dividend or a surplus to the City of Vincent. Thank you for your time.
Hang on, 3 minutes. Well done. Would anyone else like to address the meeting tonight? Okay, so there being no further questions, I'm going to close public question time at 16 minutes past 6. And those items on the agenda which have been spoken to tonight are going to be brought forward. Okay, so Governance Manager, could you please confirm if any written statements have been received?
Yes, through you, Mayor Zaman, we have received written questions from Dudley Meyer of Highgate in relation to city expenditure and the delivery of community assets. And we have received written statements from Paul Evans, Owen Davis and Nikki Singleton of North Perth in relation to item 10.2.
Okay, and so we now come to applications for leave of absence, and I have 2 applications in front of me. So Councillor Warner has requested a leave of absence from the 11th of February until the 11th of March. Do I have a mover for that? So that's moved Councillor Wolfe. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I have a second. Sorry. Oh, sorry, I need a second. That was seconded, Councillor Castle. Sorry about that. I did see that. I beg your pardon. I have a second leave of absence from Councillor Sophie Greer from the 11th of February until the 19th of May. Do I have a mover for that? That's moved Councillor Castle. Seconded Councillor Whedon. So all those in favour? Thank you. And I would like to take this opportunity, and I know I speak on behalf of every single councillor here and members of administration in expressing our deepest condolences to Councillor Greer on her loss. Our thoughts are with you, and if there's anything that we can do, we want to be here to support you. Do I have any other requests for leave of absence? Okay, I'm going to move on to the receiving of petitions and deputations. I have approved a deputation to be given tonight by Nathan Kalea on the item 10.2, the response to the petition Vine Street and Hamel Lane intersection safety concerns. Now I understand that we'll just make sure we've got it all set up for you because you've got 5 minutes because you've got a presentation. Do you also have any documentation that you wanted to circulate ahead of time?
No, I don't.
Okay, so over to you, Ms. Clare.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors, and I appreciate your consideration of this point 10.2 for Vine Street and Hamel Lane. I want to acknowledge the council's decision must be guided by data, and I respect the work of the engineers. However, our concern is the data doesn't fully capture real life experiences of the residents and motorists at this intersection. Can I get slide 2 up? I don't know if it's being able to show. Before we turn to the data, I want to note that I personally contacted each of the councillors here and asked you to drive through the intersection so you understand real life, what we're talking about, and the significance of this blind bend and the safety concerns to residents and motorists.
Can I ask, can we please stop the clock for a moment, if that's okay? Because I want to make sure you have your full time, and because we're waiting to get it up. If that's okay, I don't mean to.
No, thank you.
No, I want to make sure you have your time. Okay. Okay, so are we able to get that? Is it possible to get it onto the full screen? Sorry about this. Okay, before it gets up, so you can see there's a blind bend with a tree and a wall blocking the clear line of sight. Okay, well, I can confirm it. All councillors can see this. Okay, over to you.
Thank you. So this just is the intersection explaining that there is a bend with a tree and a wall blocking clear line of sight. The next image I've got is a car travelling north through the intersection. Next image, you'll see the car approaches the intersection, but also you can see the blind corner with the wall and the tree blocking view heading north. The next image you will see, suddenly there is a car approaching southbound and the four-wheel drive has to veer to the left, which I have to note is actually a car parking bay. So if there was a car there, where would this car be expected to turn? Note also at this intersection, data shows it's 38 kilometres an hour. At 38 kilometres an hour, the stopping distance is 22 metres. I would love to know where that 22 metres is meant to be on a blind bend. The next image I just wanted to show is a driver driving south and also iterates the blind bend with the wall and the tree. As Paula said, the intersection and the length of the road is 170 metres long. For a majority of this intersection driving north, residents and motorists have to drive on the wrong side of the road. The question I have, does the City of Vincent have data regarding vehicles driving on the wrong side of the road around this blind bend? The next image is at the T junction at the top of Ango Street. The layout allows only for one vehicle to stop before turning onto Ango Street. We're requesting where that red marking is where a final parking bay would be, that is removed to allow two cars to be able to stop at the top of Ango Street. And the next photo, you'll see two cars passing each other. There's limited room if there is a car parked at the top of Ango Street. I'm going to return to the data in the next slide. The LATM assessment relies heavily on data regarding speed and major crashes. However, in the briefing last week, the engineer confirmed that minor incidents and near misses are not recorded. This is what residents are talking about. They need to be recorded. If this data isn't collected, how can you as councillors make an informed decision? This is not a low-level, quiet intersection. Clearly at 38 kilometres an hour, there's a car travelling at every 25 seconds through the intersection at peak hour periods. Last week, the engineer briefing note, he admitted, and you'll see there, slight distance is limited and therefore poses a risk, but no solution has been provided regarding this risk. The intersection is within 300 metres of North Perth Primary and the Early School of Learning. Many drivers using this street, including rideshare drivers, are unfamiliar with the road layout and there's no warning signs to slow down. We understand in inner-city living that you are required to travel and pass on the wrong side of the road, but the issue here, we've got a blind bend with no safety risk communicated. There's no warning signs, there's no slowdown. The next slide is I've spoken with all the residents in this section on Vine Street and Hamill Lane. I've surveyed them and I asked them to comment and request which preferred solution would they prefer. So slow down 1, 2, slow down marking, 3, a raised section. My next slide shows that 21% we unanimously have made the decision that a race select section is the most appropriate, that's similar to Woodville outside of Stomp. The next slide, we respectfully ask the council to consider both the technical data and the voice of the community. This feedback is clear and it's a mandate for action. We request a slow down section at the top of Vine Street and Hamill Lane with appropriate signage, and we request one parking bay at northern end of Vine Street to allow safe passage of vehicles through the intersection. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we've received one petition. So the petition has been presented from Philip Sarich and Michaela Carr of North Perth regarding parking management on Far Avenue, North Perth, and it has 12 signatures, and it requests council take the following actions. 1, a comprehensive review of current parking management. 2, consultation with affected residents, development of targeted parking and traffic management solutions, and 4, commitment to maintaining residential amenities. So when there is a petition, clause 2.24 petitions in the City of Vincent Meeting Procedures Local Law provides the following options for council. 1, we will confine the presentation to the reading of the petition, which I've just done, or 2, and the only motions that can be considered are that the petition be received. I don't have that, or the petition, thank you. Or the petition be received and a report be prepared, or that the petition be received and be referred to a committee for consideration and report, or that the petition be received and be dealt with by the council. Councillors, I would like to propose that the petition be received and a report be prepared. Do you have a mover for that? That's moved Councillor Castle, seconded Councillor Wolf. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So that means that that is going to be coming back to a future council for consideration, and we will have a report, be able to investigate that properly. Okay, so that's dealt with that. Okay, so now I'm going to move to declarations of interest. CEO, can you please read what declarations have been received? Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. Sorry, for some reason I've got pages missing. Sorry, before you do that, need to move to the confirmation of minutes from the ordinary meeting held on the 9th of December 2025, and that they be confirmed. Can I have a mover, please? That's moved Councillor Wallace, seconded Councillor Castle. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Okay, so now I'm going to move to declarations of interest. Thank you.
To Mayor Zaman, 3 declarations of interest for the agenda tonight received as follows. The first from Mayor Zaman, declaring a direct financial interest in item 9.6, which is the submission on draft station precincts improvement plan, noting that Mayor Zaman owns and occupies land within the Claysbrook Station precinct improvement plan boundary. As council's consideration, this item is intended to influence future planning decisions that may reasonably affect the development potential of that land. Mayor Zaman will not participate in discussion or decision making on that section of that agenda item. I declared an impartiality interest in relation to item 9.4, which is the appointment of council members and community representatives to the Transport Advisory Group, noting that I worked in my previous role with 2 of the nominees. I had no involvement in the recommendation of community members to this group or in preparation of the report. The third from Councillor Poulos, declared an impartiality interest in relation to item 9.7, the proposed licence for Littus Stadium change room to Florida Athena Soccer Club, noting that Councillor Poulos's children play football at Florida Athena Football Club, and he is a life member and former president of the club. And that's all it's received for tonight.
Councillors, are there any further conflicts of interest which need to be declared tonight? Okay, so I will move on. So those items which have been the subject of question, comment or deputation from the public are going to be 9.1, 9.2 and 10.2. We don't have any items that require an absolute majority. The item where a financial or proximity interest has been declared is 9.6. Okay, so then I'm going to ask, in addition to that, Councillor Wallace, which items would you like to have dealt with, please?
Just 10.4, thank you, Mayor.
10.4. Councillor LaFontaine. Okay, Councillor Castle.
9.4, because I believe we'll need to insert some names into that item.
Correct.
I think that is all. Thanks.
Councillor Whedon.
Nothing for me.
Okay, Councillor Wolf.
9.5, please.
9.5. Councillor Poulios.
No additional items for me, thank you.
No additional items. Okay, there's no additional items for me either, so I'm just going to work out the order in which we'll be dealing with this. Okay, Governance Manager, can you please read out the items that are proposed to be passed on block?
So through you, Mayor Zaman, the on-block items listed are 9.3, 9.7, 10.3, 10.5, 10.6, 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5, 11.6, 11.7, 12.1, 12.2, 12.3 and 12.4.
Do we have a mover for those items to be moved on block? Moved Councillor Wolf, seconded Councillor Poulios. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Okay, so now we're going to move to the first item, and the first item is 10.2, the response to petition, Vine Street and Hamel Lane intersection safety concerns. Do we have a mover for this? Moved Councillor Wolf. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Wallace. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to the community members who have engaged constructively over this issue over recent months. And thank you to administration for preparing the report and responding to my many questions this week as well. Much appreciated. So this section of Vine Street sits directly next to a daycare and to North Perth Primary School. So it's heavily used by families with young children, babies, prams, bikes and scooters. And as we've heard, along much of the street, parked cars narrow the carriageway. Drivers regularly have to weave or travel on the wrong side of the road to get through. And in many parts of the city of Vincent or overseas, that's typical inner city driving. But what makes this location different is the blind corner at Hamel Lane. You've got reduced visibility, vehicles already displaced into opposing lanes, and people often maintaining speed from the straight sections of the road. And that combination materially increases risk. As we've heard, residents have consistently reported crashes, including sometimes to police, cars being scraped and frequent near misses. And many of those don't appear in the main roads database, perhaps because of timing lags or because they're minor incidents or simply they go unreported. But to me, the absence of data in one particular database isn't an absolute absence of risk. We've had residents telling us that they've stopped walking or riding on the street due to safety concerns, resulting in an amenity impact as well. The LATM assessment is absolutely a very useful quantitative tool, and we must consider it. We have finite funds and we need evidence-based decisions. But to me, good decision making also means looking at all available evidence and making a decision based on the individual merits of the case. It involves investigating for yourself as decision maker, and I know that many councillors here have taken a drive through this particular street and listening to local knowledge in addition to the use of a guiding tool. So noting that we will have future discussions about the relevant policy position on these types of requests, tonight I'm considering the data along with community concerns and lived experience, the reports of accidents and near misses, the number of children in the area, which is only going to increase as North Perth Primary School continues to grow, and my own knowledge and experience of the safety concerns on the street.
To me, the status quo, continuation of that status quo is not defensible, despite some movement on minor measures like refreshing line markings. And that's why I will not be supporting the officer recommendation. Should the recommendation not pass tonight, I have prepared an alternate recommendation that I do intend to move.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councillor Wolf has said it really well. I did take up the invitation to drive down that road this evening on my way here, came in north off Angove into Vine, almost got cleaned up by a Prado coming the other way around that blind corner. So I appreciate the work that engineering has done to take a very, very measured kind of approach to assessing risk on that street. But I have to agree with Councillor Wolf and what the community's presented here tonight, that this is a very risky intersection and street and warrants some kind of intervention pretty soon. So yeah, I can't support the substantive motion. I'm generally in support of Councillor Wolf's alternate. I guess I just had a question for administration around timing. I've heard that Vine Street is due for an upgrade in the Capital Works program anyway, potentially. Question, and if so, when is that due to occur?
Through the chair, I'd need to go and check on that with the team and confirm. But if it's imminent, it'd be in the 4-year program, then within the next 4 years.
Okay, well, I might make a few more comments on that if we get to an alternate. Thanks.
Okay, does anyone else want to speak on the motion that is in front of us now? Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I agree with the sentiments that have been expressed already. I think that as council, we've struggled with the best way to manage these difficult streets and reports that we get from community members about the difficulties they find and the dangers that they face and the very real worry that they have that these near misses will one day become a serious crash. And I certainly agree we shouldn't have to wait for a crash for action to be taken. We have struggled somewhat with the best way to approach this in a consistent manner, and I do look forward to the conversation we're going to have next month, I think, about the policy. But one thing I noted in that draft policy when it was discussed last week is that it did mention that the traffic warrant tool, the scoring that we've been using, is one tool and it is not the final picture, and that we also rely on the lived experience that we hear from our community members about what this actually feels like and looks like for them. I also want to echo Councillor Wolf's comments about the very constructive and efficient way this has been communicated by the community. You have certainly worked very well as a team, and the presentations have been very, very useful for council to hear. So I also won't be supporting the officer recommendation in its current form, and to be clear, that's because I think we should be doing more. I will look forward to a discussion about the alternate if we get to that point, and hopefully we can have some resolution for the community in this area.
I'd like to make some comments. I will indicate that I won't be supporting the officer recommendation at this point, and I'm keen for us to be able to discuss the alternate that has been presented. But what I do want to say is I want to thank the officers for putting that together. It is actually important that we do have some sort of quantitative data. I think the key thing that is really important is to look at, it actually identifies the sheer number of requests that we are receiving as a council from across the city of Vincent in terms of trying to deal with the impacts of increased congestion, increased demands for parking, not just because of our busy town centres, but because more and more households are presenting with more individual cars. There is a frustration that I hold that the cost of these upgrades are being put heavily on our shoulders as an inner city council, that whilst we are expected to carry a heavy increase in density, which I think we should, because we're in a city, we are also not being funded to be able to put in place the required infrastructure to be able to deal with that increased level of activity as an inner city council. So that is going to be a big challenge, because we do endeavour not to double people's rates in order to be able to ensure we can have the amenity and safety that people want that live in the inner city. And I am noting particularly around Highgate, Perth and North Perth, we are really starting to feel the crunch in terms of that the issues of congestion and increased challenges around parking and the sheer number of vehicles that individual households are carrying. I do also, I want to add to my thanks to the courteous and professional way in which the residents have chosen to engage with the council around this. There's a reason why we're all saying this, because it's quite refreshing. So I do want to, it's a genuine thanks. It feels as though it's has been a respectful exchange, and that's very much appreciated. And so I thought I would put that out there. I know that's how the council's feeling in relation to the people that have been corresponding around this. So thank you very much. Now, does anyone else wish to speak on the proposal that is in front of us? Councillor Poulios.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to just reiterate what everyone else has said. I won't be supporting the officer recommendation. I was invited by Nathan to go and have a look at the intersection. I've driven there twice in the last week at different times. Once last Wednesday at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then yesterday at 11 a.m. just to get a guide on whether it's, I'm sure a lot of people have done the same. Yeah, everything everyone's saying from the residents, it's frustrating for them. They're driving up and down that road probably 3-4 times a day to get home, get to work, whatever. The main two points I've driven from all the angles. I came from on Hamel north-south, south-north, and then Vine east-west and west-east. Yes, I've come from all directions. When I was going north on Vine, there was that situation where you got stuck. Someone's turned in off Angove, and then you're like, shit, where do I go? Sorry for my language. Yeah, you get caught on the hop. There's no bays to pull into. You either have to reverse or creates a bigger drama. So that's one thing that I think can be easily resolved. And I empathise with the admin with budgets, and they've got to these things cost a lot of money. But I think there's a few inexpensive measures that we can take as a city that won't have a big impact on the budget, but also will, in the interim, until a final solution maybe is done down the track years down, it'll give the residents some sort of easier way to get in and out of their sort of driveways or parking bays at the front. So that's one. And the other issue was driving driving east, from east to west on Hamel Lane, that blind corner, that could be simply fixed with like in a lot of European cities with tight bends in these older cities that are very congested, a pole with a mirror on it. That would allow, that's a pretty practical solution that I think we could implement that would help visibility in the short term. Or there's other solutions, but it's not my job to sort of, I can suggest we could turn it into a one-way street, but that might create other problems. So there's a lot of solutions that don't have to cost much money that would help the residents, I think, and we have to explore that. So yeah, I won't be supporting it. So yeah.
Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Councillor Wolf, would you like to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put the item. All those in favour? Against? Okay, I note that those against are Councillor Poulios, Councillor Wolf, Councillor Whedon, Councillor Castle, Councillor LaFontaine, Councillor Wallace and myself, Mayor Zamon. We have got an alternate to this item which has been, which was foreshadowed by Councillor Wolf. It's the green piece of paper in front of you. So, Councillor, do you wish to move this?
Yes, please, Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor LaFontaine. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to walk you through step by step the amendment in front of you on the green. That council, firstly, paragraph 1 is the same as the officer recommendation, which is to note the petition and to note the request. Paragraph 2 is that council supports installation of a raised plateau, or if that's not deemed feasible, an alternative traffic calming treatment near the blind intersection. And it provides the outcomes that we're trying to achieve here, to address the blind corner with the constrained carriageway, to address the community safety concerns, the near misses, the amenity impacts, and the vulnerable road users, being the parents, families, children, babies, etc. Paragraph 3 just to add on paragraph 2, the reason I've added in there, or if not deemed feasible, an alternative traffic calming treatment, is in recognition of the fact that we aren't the operational experts here. It would be inappropriate of us for us to direct particular road treatments. However, hearing the community concerns, we've led there with installation of a raised plateau, subject to that being considered feasible by engineering. And if it's not feasible, then an alternative equivalent traffic calming measure would be considered. Paragraph 3 authorises the CEO to finalise the design and the exact location somewhere around that blind corner, and to schedule and deliver the works through the city's capital works program. So through that paragraph, budget, timing and prioritisation would be considered as part of that capital works program. Paragraph 4 requests that we are kept updated as council on proposed timing and design. And paragraph 5 then moves to what I'm calling the interim measures. So it's things like the line markings being refreshed, the liaison with main roads on warning and advisory signage at the intersection, and the review of on-street parking near the corner of Vine Street and Angove Street to improve sightlines. So the reason I've included that there is to show that we are supportive of that and acknowledge that it is already in motion, and really appreciated the updates around that. But that is something that council is interested in and is supportive of progressing as interim measures. And underneath that, you can see the reasons. I think we've covered most of them. The first dot point goes to the structural reasons around the safety risks of the actual corner and the road. The second dot point goes to the context and the vulnerable road users. And the third dot point really highlights that I think the approach here is it's a practical, proportionate response to the safety risk and community concerns by progressing this proposal for a traffic calming treatment through the Capital Works program, alongside those interim safety measures as well. Thank you.
Councillor LaFontaine.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman. Thank you, Councillor Wolf. This is very comprehensive, and thank you to administration for preparing all the detail in this. I'm definitely supportive of this alternate. I think that any means to slow the traffic at this location to address the community concern, and in particular the concerns of the residents who do have to use this every day and do see all of the accidents that aren't necessarily recorded. I also refer to one of the comments in the public questions that states that due to the number of near misses and actual accidents at this location, we will often opt to drive instead of walk or ride our bikes, as it is ultimately safer. And I think that's quite sad here to have local residents on a local street that are opting to drive because they just don't feel safe on their street. So absolutely supportive. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Councillor Whedon.
Thanks, Mayor. I was reasonably familiar with this street, having travelled it multiple times, and I realised I'd never travelled on it heading north, only ever south, and it took me by a massive surprise the other day when I was heading north, and it is a very, very blind corner that I hadn't quite clocked as I was on the wrong side of the road. And I got home and reread the report, and the 38.5 kilometre an hour average speed concerned me greatly. That is far too fast, I think, for anyone on that street. And I'm fully supportive of greater measures to reduce the speed through that window with a school, with a daycare centre. I think Councillor Wolf has done an excellent job here. And it's very important that we treat streets like this with, slowing them down.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm supportive of this alternate for a lot of the reasons that I spoke against the original proposal. I think this strikes a good balance between recognising what the community have requested and have certainly, in a perhaps surprising turn of events, very consistently requested. That's not something that we see that often, where the community is united in what they would like to see, but also acknowledging Councillor Wolf's comments that we can't definitively say that the raised plateau is the perfect solution in this case. It's certainly a preferred one, but I think the intent of this alternate is that council would like to see something, and that we're expecting administration to keep us updated on what that something will be, because as we've all talked about tonight, the issues that are being seen on this street really need some treatment, and refreshing the lines is not enough. So I'm fully supportive of this and look forward to hearing what the solution that's proposed.
Councillor Pouliot.
I'd like to thank Councillor Wolf for this alternate motion. I think it's the way we have to go. It's a bit of a prototype, this case. I know it's a unique case, with not every street has a blind corner that bad. I think it's only going to get worse in coming years. We're pushing more density. We've got kids probably staying at home longer, into their 30s probably, because the cost of living's too expensive to buy houses now. So you're going to have kids staying. I know your face is a bit funny looking at that, but I think that's where we're going to be heading with the price of housing. Households are going to get more people living in them, and then this is going to be more common with the congestion, amount of cars. So yeah, I'm going to endorse this motion, the alternate one, and yeah, I think we have to really look at going forward how we balance everything up in totality with increasing density, but it's going to create other problems like many established cities have already around the world. So, yep.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, very supportive of this alternate. So thanks to Councillor Wolf for putting it forwards. I guess, yeah, the request for a raised plateau, I think, is a pretty modest one, and certainly interested in seeing what admin are able to come back with in terms of like other treatments to slow traffic, improve visibility, and maybe improve streetscape amenity as well as part of like a larger Vine Street upgrade. I'll also just say as well, I think it's been really timely that we've had this petition come forward, particularly on the same agenda where we had, or formally had, a review of our local area traffic management policy and procedure. I think this kind of indicates pretty well that there's still a bit of a gap between what our policy setting is and our procedures around local area traffic management and what council and community expectations are. So I support administration's move to withdraw that policy from the agenda tonight, and allow just like a little bit more of a rework between administration and ourselves before we put it back out for public comment.
So I'd like to make some comments as well. I'll also be supporting the alternate recommendation, which is the ultimate proposal which has been put forward. I also want to make sure, though, that I've put on the record some expectations about how this is going to be implemented as well. There is, of course, the budget, which is determined by the council as a whole, and we have huge competing priorities across Vincent, including areas where people have been killed, and we are still waiting for permission to be able to do things like from main roads where people have been killed, and also very serious accidents as well, where we're having to work towards getting measures. So I do really need to make sure that there is an understanding of just how difficult managing that is in terms of all the competing priorities. There is a recognition by council that apart from the increasing issues in North Perth around density, that it is the uniqueness of this blind bend that is making this such a serious matter. And it is really unusual, as has been said, to have everyone agree on the measure that they want. I don't think people realise just how unusual that is. There's usually at least a handful of people who are in our ear sending us all cap emails telling us how their view has to be put above the majority. So so that's actually comforting. But I also particularly want to comment on the proposal which talks about liaising with main roads on warning and advisory signage on the Vine Street and Hamel Lane intersections. What I know is that our team, the administrative team, meet with main roads every single week. And every single week there is a big, long list of things that we are requesting either main roads do on their roads because we don't have the right to do it, or they give us permission to be able to go ahead and put things on our local roads. Unfortunately, signage has, even on our local roads, has to be agreed by main roads. And I just want people to be aware that main roads take their own sweet time at agreeing to do anything. And even when they do finally agree to do the works, the lag between that agreement and the implementation of those works is absolutely abominable. Case in point has been the works which have been done on Angove Street, where people continue to trip and continue to get injured, and where the council has relentlessly advocated, and I'm looking actually at the people who have been doing this week after week after week, trying to get this addressed, and main roads have still not actually done this. Now, we've also said we will put the signs up, we will do the painting, just let us do it, and we are not allowed to do that. So what I will be asking the residents is that if you feel that issues of the signs going up in particular are taking too long, feel free to jump to the correct conclusion that this is being delayed by main roads, and firstly just check that, and secondly feel free to be part of the advocacy efforts around that. We don't take questions from the floor. So so I just wanted to put that there because it is important for people to know that even though you will have a council that's on side and has decided to respond and take this seriously, that not everything is completely within our control or in the control of administration, and I know that they will be working very hard to try to get this resolved. Councillor Wolf, would you like to say anything in conclusion?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to my fellow councillors for their support, for which I'm very grateful, and for the kind words. Thank you, Mayor, for the important context at the end regarding our competing priorities, the list, the finite resources, and the context in which we're operating. And I think to echo your comments around main roads, to give some example, when the speed bumps on Angove Street went in, it took 3.5 months for main roads to come and paint the white line markings on those speed bumps. So definitely also add my voice to encouraging that advocacy. I think on the whole, given all of that context, that's where those interim measures become important, noting some of them still need consultation with main roads. But for one that doesn't, the refreshing the line markings, I really appreciate our engineering team committing to doing that within the next few weeks. So really appreciate the speedy response.
Okay, so I'm going to put the proposal. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. So now we move on to 9.2, and that's numbers 484 and 488492, Beaufort Street, Highgate. Change of use from eating house to tavern. Do we have a mover for this? So that is moved by Councillor Castle, seconded by Councillor Whedon. Councillor Castle.
Sorry, just remind me which one you said, 9.2 or not?
Molly's.
9.2.
9.2.
Yep. Okay, because I'll move the other one as well. Thank you, Mayor. I am happy to support this the officer recommendation. I want to say thank you very much for the information that was provided in the briefing notes. It was very useful, and it certainly addressed the questions and the concerns that I had. Those concerns were really about how does this fit in the context of other businesses, similar businesses operating in Beaufort Street. I was heartened to see that the hours that are being proposed here are almost identical to those that other large-scale taverns are operating in. I also was very pleased, thank you, to see the changes to the venue management plan. I think that is a really positive step, and I certainly think that enforcement and management and education around our smoke-free town centres must be a partnership between the city and the businesses that operate there. I do want to add to that in addition to the efforts that the businesses can take to ensure this policy is followed by their patrons, I think perhaps council can look at what other things we can do at particular hotspots to try and target some of that behaviour. That might be extra signage, it might be extra patrols by rangers, it could be a number of different measures. But certainly as a council, it's been quite an important policy position for us to take around smoke-free town centres, and now is the time to make sure that's actually being enforced and making our town centres a more comfortable place for people to spend time. So I'm happy with the extra assessment or the assessments that have been conducted here and the extra information about how to take into account the context that this sits within. So happy to support the officer recommendation.
Councillor Whedon.
Yeah, I would also like to thank the administration for their great briefing notes and for the business owner and all of their contractors on the very thorough, well thought out application and very mature responses once issues were raised. Molly's is a fantastic addition to the Beaufort Street strip in a site that was probably for a point considered cursed. It has really made somewhere that the community visit and to see someone actually growing that space is wonderful as a local resident and wholeheartedly support the shift to the tavern licence.
Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Okay, Councillor Castle, anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put the item. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to 9.1, and that's Charles Street, North Perth, change of use to unlisted use car wash and detailing. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Castle, seconded Councillor Wallace. Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting this one as well, perhaps a little less enthusiastically. This is, I think, the third time in my time on council that this property has come before us for various applications and amendments to their applications and their approvals. It is with a level of frustration that we are dealing with this again. As part of my preparation for this council meeting and for last week's agenda, I went back and reviewed the meeting in 2022 when this was discussed. It was somewhat depressing to hear us all around the chamber talk about how we were so confident that these new measures were going to result in less compliance issues at this particular venue, and then to read this report which lists significant compliance problems, including prosecution. I do note the legal advice, and I really appreciate that that was provided up front, because it's a constant question for councillors to understand how to deal with a situation where you have had non-compliance and whether that can have any weight on the decisions that we make for amendments. So I do understand that. I think in coming to the conclusion that I support this recommendation, maybe naively, I still have hope that we will see less compliance issues as a result of this, and certainly think that the further refinement should make the obligations on the applicant more clear and more enforceable. But I have a lot of sympathy for the residents who live very near to this operation, because they have had a very tough time. They continue to have problems. And it does give me pause about, in hindsight, how well these sorts of businesses operate so close to residential homes. So I'm hopeful that the new measures that are being proposed here will give a better interface between the residents and the businesses. And I really hope that I don't see this again in my time on council.
Councillor Walls.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm somewhat reluctantly, maybe hopefully, going to support this item. I think it's been a very torturous process, I think probably for the proponent, certainly for the city, and absolutely for the residents that live around this premises and have to deal with its operations on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, I think we've landed in a pretty good spot here, and fingers crossed this solves the issues.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay, I wish to express that I will be supporting the officer recommendation, and really the only reason that I am prepared to support the officer recommendation is because it has included important mitigation measures, which I hope will go some way to addressing the ongoing concerns of local residents who have been adversely affected by the operations of the car wash. I live near a car wash myself, and I have to say that they have never been hit with compliance concerns, and as a result, it's perfectly acceptable to live near, and there aren't any problems with that. I'm very happy with the way that it gets managed, and it doesn't have adverse effects on me as a local resident. I'm also frustrated that we can't take into account lack of compliance, and that's something that we try to explain to residents. But I'm also, concerned because that has meant that valuable, precious ratepayer funds that could be used to create plateaus around blind bends, for example, are instead spent on lawyers trying to chase up compliance action from people who are not businesses that aren't doing the right thing. And I am frustrated by that, and residents are frustrated by that, but we cannot take consideration of previous issues of compliance when it comes to looking at what is a proposal in front of us, except insofar as this is potentially an opportunity to finally deal with, hopefully, some of the problems which have arisen as a result of previous approval efforts. So, like Councillor Castle, and I hope to not receive any more correspondence in relation to this item. I'm hoping that this will resolve some of the concerns and that everyone can just go on living their best lives. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Councillor Castle, is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion? I'm going to put the proposal on the officer recommendations. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to move to 9.4, the Transport Advisory Group, the appointment of the council members and the community representatives. Okay, so thank you very much. There's the recommendation in front of us for the council members, and of course the community members have been circulated in confidential attachment. You will see there's been an updated one from today, so if you haven't had a chance to check that, I urge you to do that. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to ask, because the terms of reference allow for 4 council members to be on this as well. Governance Manager, can you please confirm who has already nominated?
Yes, through you, Mayor Zaman, council members who have already nominated for the Transport Advisory Group are yourself and Councillor Wallis. Councillor Wallis has also nominated for the position of Chair.
So I would also like to ask, are there any other councillors who wish to nominate for the Transport Advisory Group at this point? Okay, we've got Councillor Whedon and we've got Councillor Poulios. So that actually means that there are 4 nominations for 4 vacancies. with Councillor Wallace as chair. Can I just confirm, is anyone else seeking to be chair? Okay, so Councillor Wallace, you're the only nominee for chair. Okay, so the proposal in front of us would be that the council members would be myself, Councillor Poulios, Councillor Wheaton, and then Councillor Wallace as chair, as well as the applicants who have the community expert applicants who have been circulated in as part of that confidential briefing. Okay, so can I just ask, do we have a mover for that? So moved Councillor Castle, seconded Councillor Wallace. Councillor Castle, is there anything you wish to say?
Just fully support. I just have a question whether an amendment is required because of the update to the community members today.
Governance Manager?
Through you, Mayor Simon, we can add a note that the 8th applicant withdrew their application prior to the council meeting, so that will be included in the minutes.
Okay, so no amendment would be required then?
No.
Okay, that's all. Fully support. Go well.
Councillor Wallace?
Yes, also fully supportive. I guess I have a last minute question to administration just around the terms of reference and whether it'd be worthwhile including direct reference to review of, I guess, like policies within the transport space as well. So we've had the local area traffic management policy be withdrawn. Like I think like a transport advisory group would be a good place to have a discussion around that policy before it's brought back to council proper. So maybe an extra dot point could be added into the objectives with some wording around that, if you have an opinion.
Comment. I'm just looking at the objectives. It does say provide strategic advice on the city's transport plans and policies.
That wording's perfect. That's great. Thank you.
Councillor Wallace, do you have anything further?
That's the thoroughness I'll be sharing with as well. So that's great.
Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Okay, Councillor Castle, do you want to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Okay, that's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to move to 9.5, the advertising of the draft public health plan. So Councillor, that was moved by Councillor Wolf. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Castle. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I just pulled this one out to acknowledge the huge amount of work that's gone in to date across consultations and workshops, meeting, research, data analysis. So I wanted to acknowledge that. As we've said previously many times, public health is something that is very important to our residents and increasingly so. And we're very proud to take it so seriously. Looking at the plan, its public health pillars with their respective priorities are robust and they're well informed. And that includes the new strategic priority areas of work on mental health, as well as the impact of climate and biodiversity emergency on public health as well. So I'm really pleased to support this plan moving to public consultation and to see it moving towards its vision, which is thriving people in thriving places together for everyone.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, also very supportive and very much looking forward to hearing what the community has to say about this new version of our public health plan. I think I also want to echo the thanks. It's been a very thorough process and I particularly appreciated the opportunity to have some further discussions about particular elements of it. I think what strikes me with this draft is that there is a real striving for integration of public health into so many different parts of how we operate. And I think that's essential. And it really does indicate just how important this is for this council and for our community. So, yep, I look forward to seeing just what the community has to say about it.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, it's a lot of good work. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to 9.6, the submission on the draft station precincts improvement land. As was indicated earlier, Walga have deemed that even though I live almost 800 metres away from one of the train stations, that apparently that gives me a financial interest, whether it's for good or bad. I'm going to suggest that we split up the discussion around this to discuss the Leederville and the Glendalough train stations, and then when it comes time to discuss the Claysbrook train station, the deputy chair will be assuming the chair. Okay, so do we have a mover? Moved by Councillor Poulios, seconded by Councillor Whedon. Councillor Poulios, is there anything you wish to say?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I just like to encourage, on top of this, which is in the report, that all councillors and anyone else, I guess, in our interactions, state government, try and lobby for Leederville to be included as well. Yeah, that's all I've got to say on it. So yeah.
Councillor Whedon.
I'm quite thankful I'm just a handful of metres out of the boundary, so I can talk quite freely about how much I love this plan and the fact that it sets a pathway for local governments and state government to work together in achieving the essential density targets, not just in Vincent, but across WA. And I think our response shows that collaborative nature and interest in working with the state government as a true partner to deliver to our residents and future residents within the Vincent catchments. And yeah, fully support it. I think that was it.
Does anyone wish to have anything else to say on relation to the Leederville or the Glendalough station?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would echo that. I'm very supportive of. I think this is a very smart and strategic approach to what is happening with what has been proposed by the state government. I think it absolutely makes sense for Leederville to be included as one of these stations. I certainly have some hope that it's in the next batch that will be considered, and I support our approach to working together with the WAPC and the state government to further these projects. So.
Okay, Councillor Cass, I'm going to ask you to take the chair now.
Turned it on. Oh, it's different, this one. We're now dealing with any questions or comments specifically about the Claysbrook catchment area. Do any council members wish to speak on that particular aspect of this item? Well, that's short and sweet. I think that the Mayor can resume the chair now, or do you need anything else? Without the Mayor in the room? Okay, all right. So I will, unless anyone else would like to speak, who moved this? Councillor Poulios, would you like to close debate? Okay, I'll put it to vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously, noting that Mayor Zaman was not present in the room.
Thank you. I look forward to being able to advocate on the matter which Council has agreed to. Okay, so we're going to move on to item 7, which is the approval to advertise amended policy, verge treatments. So do we have a mover? Moved Councillor Wallace. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Wolf. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman. Supportive of the vast majority of this policy to go out and get community comments on it. I just have a small amendment that I'd like to put forward. Maybe it has some big knock-on effects, but I'll just wait for the seconder to see if they want to speak on the substantive first. Otherwise, I'll jump straight into it.
I'll just see if anyone wants to speak on the substantive first. Okay, so Councillor Wallace has indicated that he does have an amendment here, which is on the apricot. in front of you. Never know the name of this one. Councillor Wolf, is there any comments you'd like to make?
On the substantive? Yes. No, I'm broadly supportive of the recommendation, but happy to hear further discussions and note the foreshadowing of the amendment.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak on the substantive proposal in front of us? Councillor Wallace, do you wish to move your amendment?
Yeah, I do.
Is there a seconder for Councillor Wallace's amendment? Seconded by Councillor Castle. Okay, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman. So I have a small amendment here. It's to change the title of Clause 2 from mowing and cleaning of street verges to maintenance of street verges, and critically add in a new subclause, landscaping of verges and medians, which says a verge and median of a main distributor road within the city that is not otherwise maintained by an adjoining landowner will be landscaped and maintained by the city. So I've got a reason here. I will kind of read out most of it because I'm quite happy with the wording that I ended up with. So main and distributor roads represent the city's most visible public corridors and offer significant opportunity for strategic tree and other vegetation plantings to achieve urban forest targets. The city-led maintenance would ensure a consistent implementation of the sustainable environment strategy and urban greening objectives and create continuous green corridors rather than fragmented residential and city efforts. These arterial routes form the city's front door and shape communities' perception of the neighbourhood. Professional landscaping on main roads creates thriving places that reflect the city's commitment to quality public realm outcomes, directly supporting the strategic community plan's thriving places pillar for efficiently managed city assets. Properties fronting busy distributor roads face higher maintenance burdens, so they deal with a lot of noise, pollution and traffic impacts, and provide less usable verge space for the residents. The city's responsibility of these areas would address this inequity and can ensure consistent accessible footpath clearances and amenity along high volume pedestrian routes, supporting accessible city objective. So I think I brought this up just because what I've observed out there is, I guess, is a kind of like drastically different set of outcomes within medians and verges as you move through main and distributor roads. I think Loftus Street out in front of us is a great example. As you come into Vincent, it's waist-high weeds, and then as you move closer to the council buildings, it's one of the most beautiful median strips that I've ever seen in Perth. So I think community expectations are a lot closer to what we've got out the front of the council building rather than what we see down there. And we kind of have high level informing strategies that reflect that, but we kind of lack the policy and probably more significantly have lacked the budget to date to kind of like meet those community expectations. So like, I know admin's comment that it's not supported. I guess it seems to be not supported mostly on the basis of budget, and I appreciate I brought this at a very late stage and budget impacts cannot be estimated at this time. But I guess I view the budgeting process as somewhat subordinate to strategies and policy documents. It's certainly not my intent bringing this. This is all rolled out in the next 6 months. We have 4-year capital works programs that these kind of expenses could be spread across. I do have a couple of questions from admin just on their response, if that's okay. Just bear with me. So I guess the comment has been around that this area out on Loftus towards the freeway would take $15,000 to fix up just in traffic management costs. I guess we already have a policy that says we will mow main and distributor roads. So the only modification that I'm seeking is really that we will, I guess, implement a little bit more landscaping treatments. So I guess, are those costs of $15,000 already baked in, given that we've got a policy commitment to mow that?
Thank you. I'll probably answer on behalf of Sarah. The nature of traffic management is quite different between mowing and gardening, whippersnipping, pulling. So when you have someone in a mower, in a vehicle, the level of traffic management is significantly less versus having people actually in the median. So nature and time of traffic management costs in respect to that. I think I've covered most of that for Sarah. Sarah might want to value add.
Sarah, do you want to respond?
Yeah, through you,
Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Zaman. Essentially, like Peter said, our current maintenance program relates to verge mowing and clearing. Medians are a lot trickier and have to be covered under a separate contract due to the traffic maintenance requirements, as well as recent, I guess, evolution of the traffic maintenance requirements that now requires us for these works as night works. So they do need to be treated separately. Administration is currently working through the cost implications of these areas, which will be brought to council during the budget development process. But at this stage, that's all the information we have.
Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. I have another question really. Just looking at the case study on Loftus, I was just wondering how we've ended up with two such different outcomes on a very close strip of road. And I guess, like, what are the maintenance costs associated with the north of Vincent section? It always looks pretty well maintained to me that we have people in there pruning and braking.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, the difference is predominantly due to the width of the median. So the median that Councillor Wallace is referring to directly adjacent to administration is a lot wider. So there are traffic management requirements about the distance you need to be from the edge of the roads. I guess a lot of it has to do with the fact that the median adjacent to the administration is also established, being the wider median and the opportunity to plant, I guess, more dense plantings. The median on Loftus Street south of administration is quite narrow, a lot more of a hostile environment. And the traffic management requirements, because of the nature of the roads, is a lot more complex. So that is predominantly the reasons for the difference in the levels of service of those two areas.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. I don't really have any further questions, but super keen to know what the rest of the council thinks.
Okay, so Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm supportive of this amendment for a lot of the reasons that Councillor Wallace has outlined. I think that when I see his reasoning and think about it in the sense that many of our medians are really viewed or could be viewed as an extension of the parks, which are held in very high esteem by a lot of our community members. And I think that they really let the side down when they are full of weeds and looking pretty shabby. I absolutely acknowledge the concerns and the issues raised by administration around the difficulty, the traffic management and the cost associated. But I do agree that we're setting policy statements and positions through these types of decisions, and the budget must follow. That doesn't mean that we can just decide to do everything we like in a policy and then worry about where the money comes from later. But we are not committing to doing this in a certain period of time. We are committing to maintaining and landscaping. It's fairly broadly worded, so there's a fair bit of flexibility here to work out exactly how that's going to be operationalised. I did have a question about the wording because it is fairly broad. Does administration feel that they can develop a set of operational guidelines or procedures that can effectively determine what not otherwise maintained by an adjoining landowner means and what landscaped and maintained by the city means?
It is very broad, and each individual's interpretation of what that might be will be challenging, particularly around trying to manage expectations of the community around it and the different levels there are in respect to and what can be practically achieved in the public domain on verges and medians. And given that we actually don't know the quantum that we're dealing with, bit hard to understand what additional costs capacity might need to be brought to bear to deliver that outcome and over what time. Quite frankly, I think planting trees and investing in trees within that realm is probably a higher, greater investment than trying to landscape and beautify, because it brings better outcomes environmentally. However, it really comes down to council's appetite around cost. And if we can quantify what that cost is, then council can consider what priority that might have in respect to budget setting, and whether that means an additional rate outcome or what level of service might be reduced to then accommodate the higher level of service in respect to verges and medians within the city. And would endeavour to quantify that. My view would be generally that landscaping in the public realm, what we try to achieve is a low maintenance outcome, preferably native, whether that is ground covers or mulching and the like, weed suppressant. Not flowering plants or plants that require heavy pruning or regular pruning because of the nature of what it is. However, the community's view on that might be a little bit different as well.
Thank you. And that's helpful. I think that I agree that landscaping in these sorts of areas probably does need to have a focus on low maintenance and low water usage in alignment with our other policies. I think there's certainly scope within that. I acknowledge the issues around managing community expectations, but to be honest, I think we've had lots of circumstances where we have set what might be considered a lofty goal and then had to make a plan to get to that target or to achieve that goal over many years. And I think this is probably another one of those situations where the city will be aiming to have every median and verge maintained that's not maintained by an adjoining landowner. We're not going to achieve that straight away. That is going to have to be a planned process, and it may take several years or more. But I think we have to set these goals in order to have something to work towards, and I think that it is important that we are holding ourselves to the same standards that we would like to hold the community to.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this amendment? Councillor Whedon.
I have more just a wording question around it, because it does say is not otherwise maintained by an adjoining landowner specifically. I was wondering, in the instance of if an adjacent council, for instance, was already managing a median, whether that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Chair, the City has agreements with our neighbouring local governments about where each responsibility exists in respect to the divide of road, whether it's down the centre or according to a curb line. So that shouldn't come into dispute.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this? I'm indicating that I'm going to be supporting this proposal at the same time as I absolutely understand the anxiety about, well, where's the money going to come from? And I note that this is going to have to be fed into our budgetary discussions pretty much straight away. If this is passed and we decide that this is something that we want to do, I'm acknowledging that our parks team is already doing a formidably good job on really not enough resources, maintaining parks of state significance, as well as dealing with polyphaga shot-hole borer, as well as a very ambitious greening agenda by this council, as well as the sort of planting that is occurring post the undergrounding of power. And there is a major strategy on foot to ensure that we are going to be increasing our tree canopy and trying to be doing everything we can to be a green, livable inner city. And that is difficult, particularly when you are dealing with the expectations of a handful of residents who almost seem to have an expectation that every square metre can be maintained like Hyde Park. And I do understand that that can be a real frustration. But I like to see this as a stretch in terms of our priorities and saying, and now it's up to us as a council to think about how that's going to be funded. I absolutely concur, my personal opinion, with the idea that the priority is actually trees and then mulch to keep weeds down, rather than actually looking at landscaping. And if anyone ever suggests putting a rose anywhere, I will scream. But I know that our team is far wiser than that, so that's good. I did want to make a comment though as well about some of the areas. Like, for example, hello Maxine. For example, if you see, if you go down the weeds that are as high as me opposite Water Corporation, but you actually look at the trees, there are self-sown trees. And I think that I would be devastated beyond belief if an effort to go and weed there actually resulted in those self-sown trees, which are going to be strong and hardy and are not sitting here asking us to water them, if they were pulled out. So if, for example, there is an appetite to just go pull out those weeds, please can you leave the trees there, because they are thriving and they're growing and you won't have to plant anything. So I just thought I'd chuck that in there as a plea, I suppose. But otherwise, I do support this. I think that it is important that we are leading the way in terms of our canopy coverage. But I also think it's important that we as a council understand that that means that we need to be prepared to resource that, and also where any flack that might come against us if there's increased rates that are going to meet that need. Because we just can't pretend that it's limitless funds. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Wallace, for bringing this forward. It certainly is a valid consideration, and it's something that I have heard from residents over the last few months. Interestingly enough, even sort of the inconsistency in the example that you gave tonight, Councillor Wallace, was one that was brought up by a North Perth resident. I've gone back and forth on this, not because I disagree with the concept, but because I'm wondering about what is the correct mechanism for this, and whether or not an aspirational policy setting, given all the budgetary issues, is the correct approach. Noting that, we're using the word will, it's not wording that sort of sets an aspirational goal. But where I've landed is that the policy instrument, by its very nature, it's policy. So there is room there to have that as an aspirational stretch that we work towards. But like others, I would be very keen to have that discussion in a budget workshop or similar forum, where we look at things like the size of the affected areas, what those costs are, and where those funds are likely to come from, and what the trade-off is. So yeah, happy to support and look forward to that more detailed discussion.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak on the proposal? I'm sure I can't remember. Okay, Councillor Wallace, did you want to say anything in conclusion on the amendment?
Yeah, just really quickly to thank everyone for their comments tonight, and just noting that this is just going out for advertising. So I think there's a lot of kind of like valid comments and concerns that have been raised through this, and hopefully admin has some time to kind of think through those and respond to them when this does come back for final debate.
I'm going to put the amendment. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. So now I'm going to go back to the substantive motion. Does anyone wish to speak on the amended substantive motion? Okay, and Councillor Wallace, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? I'm going to put then the amended motion. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so there being no further business to conduct, I thank everyone who's in attendance and on the live stream, and I close the meeting at 7:39. Thank you. Wendy, is that done? Thanks.